Thank you very much. It's an absolute pleasure and privilege to be here. I want to talk to you about Tata Motors design, of course. And while it's a story about the products, it's actually much more than that. No, so the human side of this story is, of course, creating these products, imagining them, delivering them, and of course, getting them used by real people. And a very important word for us, when we talk about the human side of design, is aspiration. Aspiration is this really fundamental word that drives at least our business. Aspiration is that desire to be more, to do more, to make more of your own life. And that's what drives us in Tata Motors design. Now, the Indian automotive industry, just to set a context, because when I asked who's a car designer or studying car designer or car design, there were just like 6 people there. But for everyone else, just a little bit of context, the economic value, it's 7% of the GDP. You can talk about competition. Almost every global OEM is now in India. There's a model to choose in whichever segment you want. There's a youth advantage. 50% of India, is under the age of 25. This is key critical to what we do. This age, this demographic, figure. So that's 600 million people under the age of 25. 18 in 1,000 have a personal car in India. 18 in 1,000. To put that in context, in the US, it's about 800 per 1,000. In Europe, Western Europe, it's about 600 per 1,000. We are at 18 per 1,000. So there's this pent-up demand for personal mobility, which is unprecedented, and in no part of the world does it have the potential to really explode. We also have some challenges, safety. Every 4 seconds, someone is killed in a road accident in India. Every 4 seconds. That means in the time I've spoken just now, a few dozens of people have actually lost their lives. This is an unpardonable part of our environment. The environment itself, 15 of the 20 most polluted cities in the world are in India. Is that acceptable? It should not be acceptable to anybody. Regulation, we are a highly regulated sector. Some of you have seen the effects of that in the recent past. And then infrastructure. Infrastructure is, again, a key for growth in the automotive sector as well. If you don't have the roads and you don't have the sort of ways of getting around, the consumption of transport products reduces. By the way, the other thing is, by the time I speak at the end of the day, usually nobody loves cars anymore. We are also uniquely placed, for those who don't know, we are uniquely placed in a Tata Group environment. That means we, as Tata Motors, as a part of 90 other companies, have this real possibility to come together as a group to solve some of the challenges that I spoke about. So we have Tata Housing, Tata Infrastructure, Tata Consulting, many Tata companies, Tata Power, which can come together to create some solutions for the country. But if you go back, and coming back to the human element, in the past, the designer was the maker. That means the designer himself or herself actually created the object he or she was selling. And this had the relationship, therefore, between the object and the maker was very different to what it is today. As we go into industrialization, the designer is no longer the maker, and you have the birth of the supply chain. That means the customer is so far from you as a designer that link sometimes is totally lost. And it's very, very important to keep that link. So here you can see the distance now which has come between a designer, someone else makes it, then there's a supply chain, and someone else consumes it. But what makes great design? I mean, a lot of people ask me what makes great design, and I always say it's imagination first. There are lots of elements to great design, but imagination is one of them. Imagine a future that doesn't exist. Imagine something that you don't have today. That power of visualization only a designer has. Society and culture, the kind of, that shapes design, always does, always has, and always will. Technology is an incredible shaper of great design. Marketing, sometimes people don't like that word, but if you don't get the message out of what you are creating, then no one will be able to even know that you exist. Marketing is a very, very important part of that story. Suppliers, all your supply chain partners, incredibly important in creating great design. Function, everyone knows this, in a room full of designers. I don't think I need to explain what function means. Legislation, sometimes law creates design. I'll tell you, for example, in India, we have a very unique situation where cars under 4 meters get a tax break. That's a legal, that's a law. So we are the only country which has a sedan which is under 4 meters. This is unheard of anywhere else. A lot of my colleagues from other OEMs, they say, how do you design a sedan under 4 meters? It's impossible, with a 420-liter boot, 4 or 5 people, an engine in front, but we do that. But our law mandated it, and the whole industry actually came up with a solution for it. And the environment. The environment is a major shaper of design. So if you look at, anything to do with electric, renewable, environment is one of those pressures or one of those, triggers for design. So what's next? After knowing all that, today we're dealing with a variety of issues. So someone says, Pratap, when you start designing, what do you think of? Of course, we put the customer at the center of everything we do, but there's everything else that you have to think of. And as some students and maybe young practitioners of design and automotive design, the more you know about this, of what's around you and what's shaping what you do, the better it is for you. You will be in a better position to come up with products that are truly compelling, because all these pressures are around you. So understand them, make them a friend. In the meanwhile, I spoke about the demographic shift in India. In the meanwhile, the way India works, this is Ministry of New in Bombay. It was voted one of the 10 best places to work in the world. This could be New York, it could be London, Berlin, Paris, but this is in Bombay. Where India eats, people are looking for experiential food. You go in and they bring a little plate with some smoke and nitrogen and, all of that. So experience, the way people eat and where India eats. How India travels, of course, this has got nothing to do with the Beijing airport we just saw, but these are two beautiful gateways into India, and like the one you have in Hyderabad and Bangalore as well. So while we were, a company thinking about ourselves and our products, India was changing around us. And what India shops for? We just had a speaker from IKEA. Who would have said that IKEA would be in India? But they are. With the Swedish names, very difficult to pronounce, even in Sweden. But they are here. So everything is changing. And of course, this is some of Nipadoshi's work, how you bring India and the globe together. I think we have got a unique opportunity to express what I call India Global, this mix of Indian and global influences to create something which only we can create. But this is the other reality. So that great airport you saw, this is the sort of, as you land in Bombay, this is what you fly over. You tell me in that middle picture, which autonomous technology will help with that traffic situation? Or if we built more roads, would we be able to get rid of what you see there in Delhi? This is the other reality. And so when I was talking about the pressures and factors that go into designing automobiles, this is what you have to deal with today, as designers. Of course, we are talking about smart cities. We heard about sensible cities. We are talking also about being fully electric by 2030. That's a hugely ambitious, aspiration of the government. And I really, really wish we stick to that, because it's a game-changing vision. And if we can do it, we'll be one of the countries which will leapfrog everyone else. Okay, what have we been doing in Tata Motors design to actually deal with all of this? When I sort of took this job in 2011, my boss comes and tells me, you have to design these cars and these products, etc., but you also have to build the design team. We were maybe 20 people then, and we looked at our future and said, with 20 people, we are going to get nowhere. We had a small studio in Pune, and what we did was, this is like building the ship while you're sailing. So we were designing the cars, but we were also designing our capability of designing those cars. So I built 3 new studios, one in England, one in Italy, in Turin, and of course our home base in India, in Pune. We invested a lot of money there to create a brilliant facility. And we have a small presence in South Korea for our trucks and buses. This, by the way, is the UK studio, which we opened in November last year. It's a state-of-the-art facility, absolutely second to none anywhere in the world. A lot of people ask me, why do you use overseas facilities? One is it gives you perspective. It gives you a global perspective, which is that we have about 200 people. The last we counted was, I think, 13 nationalities, all the way from USA to Australia and everything in between. And this brings a sense of perspective which is incredible. When you ask someone from the US to design a 3.6 meter Tiago, hatchback, he has no idea what it is to begin with, because 3.6 meters in the US is the load bed of a F-150 truck. I mean, the product doesn't even start at 3.6 meters. So when you give that sort of challenge to a designer, you have results which are absolutely unexpected, but are brilliant, because they can bring a perspective which you don't get. So having someone from Germany or France or India designing a pickup truck for Australia, this brings this richness of the solution, richness in the design, which is irreplaceable. We are the only OEM in India to have this global design footprint, and I'm really, really proud we do. Of course, it gives us access to the best talent anywhere in the world. When you talk about human, we still do a lot of things by hand. The process always begins, in the mind of a designer and gets translated in a beautiful sketch like this. It's very, very immediate. There's no barrier. And I really, encourage all my designers to make these hand-drawn sketches. I know there's computers, there's all sorts of things, but to get an idea from your head to your hand to the paper, it's still the best way, to use a pencil. We also have this picture in the middle here on the right. It's called the clay modeling process. I showed you the craftsman who was, a potter earlier. We have these clay sculptors, and we call them sculptors because they sculpt the design by hand onto, this product is full size. It's actually one of the cars we're going to launch soon. But the kind of human touch you therefore get in the design, in the final design, is what relates to the customer. Believe me, when a customer walks into the showroom, he feels he's buying more than a machine. Most people give their cars a name. Have you heard of anyone giving their washing machine or iron a name? No, but cars have a name. Cars have memories. You all remember 8 of you in an Ambassador. You know why? Because cars tell this story. It's much, much more than this inanimate object. And part of making it alive is actually this sort of very, very tactile process we still follow at Tata Motors. Through the years, we of course, did a lot of pioneering products. The Indica, the Safari, they all sort of created the segments that they were in. But we had some problems with these, because like I said, India had changed around Tata Motors. And it was very important that we understood that change. And what happened with this was that by the time we reached sort of 2014, we had lost a very important thing. And please think of this when when I say it. We all talk about market share. Market share, so many points, so many this, so many that. But it's very, very important to know where market share comes from. And market share comes from a place in your head called mind share. Do you know that when you consider buying a car, or any product actually, you only consider 3 products, or three products in that segment. So if you're buying something like a hatchback, you look at the top 3. If you as a company, whatever you're making, are not in that top 3 in the person's mind, in that dinner table conversation, you have no chance of making the sale. No one knows who the 4th company in any segment is. Why? Because only the top 3 are, and most of the time, top 2 are remembered. This is the same for design colleges. This is the same for businesses. You've got to get mind share. And mind share is what leads to market share. So by this time, we had lost mind share completely. We were at the bottom of the ratings. Our sales were really low. The brand had taken a beating. A 150-year-old brand like Tata, and we couldn't sort of live up to that. But then we started a revival, and this is the first wave of products that I did, with the team. So the Tiago, the Tigor, the Hexa, and the Nexon, and they all have gone on to become, brands in their own right. Today, Tiago is a billion-dollar brand. Same with the Nexon. I won't go into individual stories, of course, but this was our way of gaining mind share, to come back into the game, to make sure we were at the dinner table conversation. And these cars did that for us. And then, of course, we are moving very, very rapidly into electric. This car here, the Tigor EV, just a couple of days ago, we relaunched it with a longer range, 240 kilometers of range for the private buyer. So you can buy that car for 10 lakh rupees. You cannot buy a car like this anywhere in the world for that money. It doesn't exist. But we've brought that to market, and we're going to bring many, many more cars in the EV space. And then the second wave of products, with the new architecture, the new platforms, these they are going to be game changers for us. And this is really the second wave, like I say, Impact Design 2.0. Most people, why do we call our design philosophy Impact Design? Most people first see a new product, on a 5-inch mobile phone screen. All of you do it. You have 20 seconds to make an impression on the viewer, 20 seconds. If he doesn't like it, it's like swipe right, swipe left. If he doesn't like what he sees in the first 20 seconds, he will not go to the showroom. You've lost the person there and then. So we said we have to ensure that these cars look amazing on a small phone to interest the customer enough to go and visit our showroom. You're vying for his time. This is the other one, again, going to be launched shortly. We use the Land Rover platform for this one, extremely capable. Buzzard, the name is a bit of just a placeholder, but it's a game changer in the segment, and this is going to come soon as well. I'd just like to show you a film on these 2 products. Can you make the volume a little higher? So you see there the human side of it. We are not selling cars. We are selling human emotions. We are selling memories. And of course, these were actors who are smiling at the end of the film. But please remember that, because I'll show you something else at the end. This is another very, very cool product. By the way, all of these can be EVs. So don't feel afraid. All the Greta Thunbergs within us, these can all be EVs. It's protected to be EVs. They are really amazing. They'll have great range at affordable sort of price. This is another little product I'd like to show you. Again, a little clip, if I may. Yeah, so this is another little 3.8 meter car, which again, we're going to launch very soon. This was what our stand in Geneva looked like this year, earlier in March. A whole new portfolio of products, which really, really, like I said, were aimed for one and one thing only, which is mind share. Okay, and you can see, we are trying to move up that scale of aspiration and emotion. We were somewhere right at the bottom left. The idea is to try and move to the top right, and you do that through design. You do that as you keep going, as you keep bringing electric, as you keep, raising, the aspirational level in your cars, but always accessible. We are always about accessible aspiration. These are not cars which cost $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. You don't have to be rich to be green. I think this is very, very important. We also do trucks, by the way, like, Tata Steel, we also do steel. We also do trucks and buses. Here the challenge is even more phenomenal, by the way, because, one of the products, that 407, that white truck there, that was launched in 1986, and it's still being made and sold today. So, when someone says that, yeah, we need a design philosophy for commercial vehicles, what can we do? Well, that's the kind of age of products you're dealing with, being made and sold in the same showroom as these products, which we've done recently. We are particularly proud of the Prima because it was launched at a time where India didn't even have highways to run those sort of trucks. But we launched that in 2007. Today we do, and today that's a market leader in its segment, in the 40-ton sector. Same with the Ultra. Rapid rise of business, logistics with your web-based businesses delivering products to the last mile, etc., etc. It's a product we foresaw that will be needed, and today again it's a market leader in the segment. But yes, we needed a design philosophy. When you lined up all our trucks, they looked like they were from 7 different manufacturers. So the MD asked me, Pratap, is there any way we can make them all look like Tata Motors? I said, okay, that's an interesting challenge. And we came up with a very simple visual tool. We call it the Trust Bar. Commercial vehicles, Tata commercial vehicles are really known for their reliability. So people really trust them. And we used a very simple visual cue to tie it all together. And we've codified it into a little bit of a design specification. And if you see everything from a small truck to an electric bus to that 40-ton Prima, will carry, from now on, this little design element. Because in trucks, you don't redesign trucks every, 6-7 years like you do cars. Trucks are, 20, 30-year programs. One little clip again for two of the latest ones we've done. So that's the intra and the ultra. A lot of people ask me, why do you need to design a truck? Why do you need to design a commercial vehicle? It's only for goods delivery. But a lot of people forget that there is a human being in the cabin who's actually driving that product. So for the intra, for example, is the first commercial vehicle with an air-conditioned cabin. Why? Can't the driver aspire for more? He sees all of us in our AC cars, and we give him a hot, sweaty cabin to work out of. So can we not elevate his status in society? Today, by the way, in India, there's a 30% shortage of truck drivers. 30%, because everyone says, or nobody says, I want to grow old, I want to grow up and become a truck driver, because it's unaspirational. So when you do things like this, when you give it the respect it deserves, things start changing. So it's air-conditioned cabin. We've brought in, a lot of passenger car features here. You can charge 2 phones. We've got some color coding. It's got a digital speedometer. Why should we treat a truck driver as any less than anyone else? So that's the driving philosophy behind this. These are, of course, some of our other little EV products, from 6 people to 60 people. A bus like that is already running in Bombay. We just won a contract for 300 EV electric buses for Ahmedabad. Now, I go back to those models smiling. When I took on the role, I would read some blogs on what people felt about Tata Motors and Tata Motors design. And overwhelmingly, it used to be fire the head of design. Okay? So I had luckily just joined the company, so no one could fire me yet. But, it was almost uncool to be seen with a Tata vehicle. But this is what's happened in the last 5 years. All of the smiles you see are actual photographs that people send me on Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn and whatever. These are people who are proud now to be seen in their Tata cars. That's Pradumna, by the way, in the middle there. I was very moved when he bought that Tiago. But this is what it does. And also, look at the environments they're all in. So one is there's a big group there. It brings people together. It takes them to places they perhaps only dreamt of. The other thing, before we launched the Harrier SUV. Before we launched it, we had a Harrier Owners Club. We had an Owners Club for a product we hadn't launched yet, So this is the kind of shift in mind share that's taking place. And, I really hope it translates, of course, to market share. It's important for a company like us. But at the end of the day, it's photographs like this, it's smiles like this, it's kind of joy that we bring that gets me out of bed and, into one of our design studios anywhere in the world. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Next time you see a Tata product, please think of us. And I hope we're in one of the top 3 of your buying choices. Thank you very much. Thank you. Are we taking some questions now or
Yes, we have time for 2 questions.
two?
Yes.
Yeah.
We have,
The car design students are not allowed, huh?
can we have a mic, please?
Hello everyone, this is Samar Singh from NID Haryana, that is National Institute of Design, and I'm a student of final year of industrial design. So Pratap, I have 2 questions for you.
Okay.
The first one is, I've seen designers sketching a lot, working a lot, and creating like very beautiful cars, aesthetically appealing cars, and majority of them cars are launched in the Auto Expo. But when they are launched as a production car, the whole design changes and they're not as appealing as they were in the Auto Expo. And the second question is, when I was in class 6th, I had like a great passion for designing cars. I started sketching, and it's been like around 7 or 8 years, and I'm sketching cars, and I'm good at it. But recently, that passion is dying because if you want your passion to be alive, that person needs to be alive as well. And what I've read these days, the salary, like the designers are being paid less. They're like paid less, and the Hindu covered 2 news that is on 18 August. They covered that the automakers are like being shut down, which included Tata Motors, Hero Motorcorp, and which led to 2 lakh people, not 2 lakh people, sorry, like which led a lot of people losing their jobs. So what do you think, like pursuing an automotive design career will be a good option in India or not?
Yeah, of course it's a good option. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't. So, like I said, 18 out of 1,000 people have a car or access to, personal mobility. Very, very important. So your questions were quite long, so and it was a bit boomy, so I can't. So one is, I think, concept cars you asked. So our philosophy in Tata Motors is don't promise something you won't deliver. So if you look at Nexon, if you look at, I'm using the code names of the products, Nexon, H5X, 45X, H2X, when they become real cars, 80% of that car translates into production. I always say that a concept car is like a trailer for a film. You can't just show the best bits and then the rest of the movie is rubbish. It has to live up to what you show as a teaser. So we are very, very stringent about getting our concept car to match and deliver what the final car will do, because it's no use otherwise. I show you something amazing, and then what comes in the market is completely different. So some automakers do it, it's not our philosophy. The second question about the career, look, all I would say is when I joined NID and when I got into this field, there was no profession for car design. So if you're doing it for the money, then I think you're probably better off doing something else. But if you're doing it for the passion, then I think you should stay the course.
Thank you so much.
We have time for one more question, please.
I can't remember my first salary, by the way. It was so negligible. So
Hi Pratap, this is Sudhir Siddharth from SAC Creatives. This is my question from last 7-8 years when I'm from the student. So these cars are meant to be designed for India, right? Why all these commercials will made in Western or some other country, not in Indian streets?
okay, that's purely because when the films were made, we didn't have the car. It was literally digital data, because in a show car, before you do the car, you got to get the film. And we use an agency in London because they're the best in the world to composite digital data into a real environment. So all the cars you saw, they don't exist or didn't exist at that time. So it's all compositing.
But it's like false advertising, right?
Now why? You have a problem if we sell a car abroad?
I want to see witness how it will runs on the Indian roads because we are selling in India.
Of course, that at launch you'll see. I'm sure you've seen a Nexon running around.
Okay, cool.
So don't worry about those things. Don't get like sort of hyper nationalistic. It's not the problem. It won't solve anything.
Being a designer, I have few questions. That's why I asked.
No, all I'm saying is, you have okay, you tell me in India, we have 250 different car models. 250.
Okay. Yeah.
Tell me how many of them are designed here. Who is my real competition?
I feel Hyundai.
Hyundai, no. How many? Out of the 250 models, apart from few that we do, few that Mahindra does, and a few facelifts here and there, it won't even be 10% of the market. So 90% of my competition is is likely to be a design team sitting in Germany or in Korea or in Japan. That's my competition,
Okay.
as far as I'm concerned as a head of design of a company.
Okay.
So, don't worry about being global. You can be global, you can be local, you can be Indian, you can be British, you can be whatever. Be comfortable in what you are. Don't resist this kind of,
I'm not just
I've told you, out of
resisting.
180 people, we've got 95 designers from India. I think we are the largest employers of automotive designers in India. I can say this with all confidence. So if you're good enough, you can be a part of the team.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pratap.
Thank you.